Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Pagani, the chair of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission, and I would like to welcome you to this month's hearing. Today's date is April 10th, 2024, and the time is 5:00 p.m. I would like to invite my fellow commission members to introduce themselves to you. Beginning on my right, please.
Mary Harmon Young.
Joseph Cox.
Jordan Morris.
Sally Davis.
David Nelson.
Thank you. And joining us from city staff this evening, we have Mr. Chad Hobbs, Associate City Attorney, Mr. Hudson Cheshire, Associate City Attorney, Ms. Emily Hayes, Associate Director of Planning, Mr. Jonathan Bowen, Neighborhood Resources Coordinator, Ms. Lily McIntyre, the Special Projects Coordinator, and Mr. Kevin Jones is providing assistance with our audiovisual production this evening. I'd like to go over the general purpose of the Tuscaloosa Historic Preservation Commission and go over the procedure for tonight's hearing. The general purpose of the Historic Preservation Commission is that we serve to protect and preserve the buildings, sites, and structures of historic significance in Tuscaloosa's historic neighborhoods. We are governed by Chapter 20, Article 2 of the Code of Tuscaloosa, which includes design guidelines that are posted on the city's website. Our decisions are based on these design guidelines and do not consider use or occupancy. We do consider such factors as architectural style, appropriateness of materials, and how the structure relates to other structures in the immediate neighborhood in determining the appropriateness of the application. Any approval of an application requires 5 affirmative votes. If the certificate is approved, please be aware that there will be a final inspection by city staff of approved applications to ensure compliance with what was approved by the commission this evening. Little explanation of our procedure tonight. This is a public hearing. It is televised live on local cable, streamed online through Facebook, and is being recorded to be posted on the city's website. We ask proper decorum, civility, and respect for others at all times. Prior to this meeting, notice was sent to adjacent property owners, and the public has been notified of the applications to be presented tonight. This hearing is a chance for the applicant to present their case, for the public to make their views known about the project, and for commission members to gather relevant facts about the application before making its decision. City staff will begin by introducing the application. The applicant will then have a chance to make any comments. The commissioners will then have an opportunity to ask the applicant questions about the case. I will then open the floor to public comment. At the close of public comment, the commission will then discuss the matter and vote on the application. Any person wishing to speak on behalf of another person, group, or entity shall provide written authorization to the chairperson from that person, group, or entity being represented. Immediate family members, and we define that as a spouse, a parent, or a child, do not need to have provided such written authorization when speaking on behalf of another immediate family member. And we ask that you please leave signs in your yard. City staff will be out in the next few days to pick them up. All right, moving on with our business. As the Historic Preservation Commission has received a synopsis of the previous meeting, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes of the same unless there are any deletions, additions, or corrections. Do I have a motion to approve said synopsis? Good, I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. We will vote beginning on my left, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 That motion has been approved. Now, the commission members have had a chance to review tonight's agenda items. Do any of the members have a conflict of interest as defined by Section 6 of the commission bylaws with any of these items? Hearing none, I will move on. I would like to ask city staff if proper notification has been provided for each of the agenda items.
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much. And let's move on to our first application.
Good afternoon, Commission. We'll start with HPC 1524. Mark Nix petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations. This is to the primary structure and also to install landscaping on the property at 325 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here again, we have an aerial view of the property. This is the same property that came before you back in February. They are back with a new proposal. So here we have the subject property as well as that adjacent northern property. So the proposal is for a change in materials used to repair those 3 sets of steps around the primary structure. They are also adding screen and lattice work to the existing porch area, really altering the existing screen work that was previously installed. And then they have provided a comprehensive landscaping plan. So we're just going to go around the property and we're going to call out everything that they mentioned on their plan. So starting at the top, they do plan to remove and scrape off the paint that's been installed over the front door transom, as noted here. The brick that you see underneath the door on the steps and in front of the steps is all going to be removed, and they are going to identify the material that is underneath there. If they do plan to change or alter, that would be a separate proposal at a later date. If they do want to repair what's there with the same materials, that is something that you could approve, or if you would like that to come back before you, you could have that come back before you to approve. Also, in addition to the removal of the brick, you have this concrete located here. It's going to be replaced with an exposed aggregate material to match as closely as possible the existing concrete that's already there. And then they call out landscaping, which a few slides on, we have a comprehensive landscaping plan to show.
I'm sorry, where the aggregate, what is it matching?
So this right here, the path or the steps leading, or not the steps, but the path leading up, the walk leading up to that front porch area, and you can see it a little bit differently here.
And that's going where the red box is?
That's going to match this.
Trapezoid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one second, I think you're talking about this, and then this is separate, right? So where we have the brick being removed,
Yes.
and it's said to be replaced with new concrete, so we know there's concrete under that brick, is that correct?
So we do not know if there's concrete underneath the brick or what material exists. I'll have the applicant confirm
Yep.
that. It's my understanding they plan to use this material.
Okay, so we're talking about that aggregate
same-
going away. Yeah,
that's correct.
that's fine. Yeah, because currently, what we can see there that's not covered with brick is that exposed aggregate. Yes, it doesn't look like that in the photograph.
So we're just matching
So
here.
this, yes, so the part that's outlined in the fluorescent green looks like, in a way, that photo that's included here on the lower left, right? So we've got exposed aggregate there. It doesn't look, I've been by the structure, and that's what we have there, and then it sounds as though that exposed aggregate continues underneath where that brick is. But we'll ask the applicant
That's
about that.
correct, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
And they also plan to use this on the landscaping plan. There's an existing circle drive that we'll note. That's the same material they plan to use for the landscaping for the new driveway. So moving on to, this is the southern facade of the house. So we'll just start over in this section here. The brick that was replaced underneath the 2 existing doors, they plan to paint the brick white to match the side of the house, so white to match what's already there. I'm going to change this color because the red kind of blends in. Go blue. All right, so the brick that you see located here, called out here, it's going to be removed, and they would like to replace it with brick that is more matching to what you see on either side. Now, these 2 items were installed by the previous owner. That was not something that they did recently. They also call out that there is going to be an exposed aggregate walk. The landscape plan will show that, but it's going to be that same material we were just discussing. As you can see on the bottom, the lattice work, it's going to be trimmed out to match the lattice that's on the front facade of the building. And it'll also be painted to match, it's a darker brown color to match what's already there. So moving just to the south a little bit, The stairs here, they were used or repaired previously. They used bricks that were on the property, so they would like to request to continue to use those to keep what's currently there. They will add some landscaping on this side as well, and then to repair the columns, paint the columns to match what's already there. Moving on the flip side, so we have a closer up image a little bit later on, but basically to replace the existing crawl space, those access panels, they are in a deteriorating condition, so they would like to replace those, and then also some landscaping. So here we got the landscaping. Two things I do want to point out. The circle drive, it currently exists. It is more of a loose material. That exposed aggregate is what they're intended, the concrete aggregate, to match as closely as possible for what's currently there. You can see the new concrete walks, and then this is the extended path of that picture that we were looking at earlier. One other thing to note on the landscaping plan, so currently the fountain exists here, and they would like to move it just on the other side of that path. They also provided some examples of the plantings to be used around the property. All right, and then we'll move on. These are just some images that the applicant provided. They did some research and pulled these photos from the Library of Congress. So we just wanted to include those as well. They were also available in the packet. And then these were images provided by the property owner, the applicant as well. Those were that up here, it's the crawl space doors.
And the photo with the handrail is the front.
That's correct. So new materials, brick, concrete, the exposed aggregate. Obviously, you have landscaping, plantings to be used. We did not receive any public comment for this application. We do have the petitioner here in person.
Any questions for city staff?
Sure. The front facade, next one. Okay.
So is that threshold, do we know whether that is a piece of like limestone?
So we don't know what the material is currently. They did replace or at least cover the existing material with those bricks that you saw in a few previous slides, and we can go back to that, but we're not sure what the material is currently.
So we don't have a picture of that threshold from a year or two ago?
Right, prior to the new brick that was installed.
Have we confirmed that under the front steps, that is the original stone?
So we have not. What the applicant is intended to do is to replace or to take off all the brick that they installed to verify that material. It's my understanding if it is whatever material it is, they plan to just repair it. If they chose to do anything else, that would have to come back before this commission, but we don't know exactly what material exists there.
Have we received any details from a mason or somebody like that about how one removes the brick without damaging the underlying stone?
We did not receive that information.
Mr. Bone, there's a photo submitted by the applicant of the front of the house. I think it was a composite of photos, and it showed those front steps. There it is. So here, this is pre-brick facing on those. So you can see that it's some kind of stone, possibly concrete. I mean, hard to tell from the photo, but that's what they look like before the brick.
And I think the information we had last time from Dr. Malone was that it would be, probably locally quarried and cut stone under there. I mean, we see that there's a little bit of damage to one of, I guess, what I'd call a tread, but they certainly look functional.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Dr. Malone had mentioned that about the stone steps. But I just wanted to point out that we do have this photo, and it's really nice and clear. Are there any other questions for city staff? We can bring the applicant's representative up and ask some of these detailed questions. All right,
Okay.
Thank you. Let me invite the applicant's representative to come up, please. And we'd like you to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nathan Gordeau. My address is 5615 Union Chapel Terrace, Northport, Alabama.
So we have a few questions for you, Mr. Godot. One of the things I want to say, though, is
Excuse me.
considering how many things we're considering here, we really appreciate how so clearly they were presented in the packet.
ma'am.
We're able to look at all of these elements in a very clear kind of way. So thanks very much for putting the
Yes,
effort
ma'am.
into doing that.
Yeah.
The first question I think that came up was something Mr. Cox brought up, and that is about that concrete aggregate, the exposed aggregate. So that is what we find under that, the brick on the front walkway right now. So you're just carrying that concrete aggregate all the way there. You're replacing what is there now, which is currently concrete aggregate, correct? Okay,
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
did that help? Okay.
I think what we're saying is we're extending this path to the stairs.
Well, it was already there.
Material-wise.
Yes, it was, and that material, I just wanted to clarify too, that material was already there. It got covered
Yeah.
over with that
The
brick.
footprint, everything is the same.
And the footprint is the same?
Yeah.
Yes,
And it was original concrete.
yes. So,
Yeah.
so thank you. Just to clarify that, because lots
Yep.
of little things going on
Yep.
here. But it is currently concrete aggregate, so that's going to look appropriate for the house. That's first thing. Let's see. Other questions? All right, well, I have some then. Can we go around to the south facade for a second here? So I just want to ask a little bit here.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, so those two doorways, we have some brick facing there underneath the doors, threshold there. I'm just wondering the rationale for putting the brick there, and then now the request to paint the brick. Or was the brick was already there?
As far as I know from the older pictures from the Library of Congress, the brick was not there.
It wasn't. I just don't know when it was there. Do we know? Was that a recent thing? I can't remember now.
That was from the current owner.
Okay, so the current owner put the brick there.
Right.
And we didn't have a really big problem with that, but I'm just wondering, what is the thought behind painting the
The
brick?
painting it.
Yeah.
The owner would like to keep that brick and not to take any of that off and just paint it back to the white. I believe on the left side, as you walk up, there was some damage that he had to repair, some water damage, and it was trim pieces. He had that repaired and painted, and then wanted to come back and just match it all down the side of the house there.
Was there a practical consideration? I guess as the condition stands right now, we know of at least two potential possibilities. One is to paint the brick white. The other is to remove the brick, which, as I understand it, is the plan for the front.
Right.
So was there something about the installation or other conditions at that threshold that pointed toward painting rather than removing?
As far as I know, when he installed all that and wanted it all to match, and he wanted to keep all just what he'd already done on that brick portion there and keep that like it is and paint it to match.
Because what I'm thinking, this has been such a complicated application,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I was thinking, didn't we consider this last month, or 2 months ago, 2 hearings ago, when you guys came here, and the commission didn't have a problem with removing the brick on that side? Is that how? Okay. You weren't here.
I don't recall that
So we
one.
had no issue with that brick there when this application first came to us? Yes, on the side.
sides.
On the,
My recollection of the discussion was that we needed to go back to square one.
I just want to make sure.
There was a lot of discussion back in February On this side of the house, there was discussion with those knee walls that were already brick, having brick precedent. But those were both things that were discussed during February.
Right, what did the commission decide?
There was no decision other than their request during February to keep what is currently there was denied. So essentially, that was the decision by the commission.
So, let's visit this brick
I mean,
for a second.
barring a compelling reason, would it be something that the homeowner would entertain the same investigative process of removing the brick and seeing what's there and seeing if it could be repaired, just like the front?
I had to confirm with my client on that one to see what he would want to do. Because I don't know if that side was limestone or not. I don't remember any discussion about that. Those two particular ones being the limestone, or I remember the front was main concern.
Well, because I do remember talking about the brick facing on the steps going up, and that there wasn't the same issue with that as there was with the front facade. Ms. Hayes, you were going to say something? Or,
Just the only thing that I was going to say is if the commission is leaning towards asking the property owner to remove that to verify, I think that could be something that you continue on versus asking the property owner, see if they're okay with it. Okay, maybe we come back. That should just be something that we just continue on to the next meeting, just for clarity, just to make sure. And then maybe the property owner could make comment on that in between time, talking with staff about it.
And I think that maybe is a good point more generally, because while I really appreciate some of this graphic and the way it's been marked up, I'm still kind of wondering whether or not we are at a position to approve something at this level of detail, or whether we're still in sort of a rough draft with both the remediation work and frankly the landscape plan is not quite what we're used to seeing. But I had a different question, and I think I asked it to Jonathan, and that is what sort of consultation you or the owner have done in terms of what's going to be the best way to remove that brick so as to minimize the risk of damaging the underlying stone.
From my experience on that thinner set brick, it's not as adhered as much as a full set brick is. So I would assume that it would be easier to take that off and remove it, and there's going to be some sort of scraping involved.
Do y'all have a sub involved, or a mason or anybody looked at that for you?
We have not had any discussion as far as who or how to remove that. But it would be the intent that it would try to save everything that's there.
so let's pull this back to the design guidelines again, and let's get back to some of these specifics of the application, because we do have a lot of material here that we need to consider tonight. Are we stuck on that south facade for a second here? Is that with the, okay. Any thoughts? Any questions for Mr. Giroux?
I think what you said, but I think once you take, I don't know, but I thought when you took off that kind of brick veneer like that, there was kind of a solvent of some type, acidy, maybe you would
But
know.
that's not our,
Right, but
Right.
isn't that what they do after that? There's some kind of
To
solvent.
save the stone or whatever's there?
Yes.
Talking about to the process of saving it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that gets you back, isn't, so I didn't know if he had discussed with anybody the use of. any
No,
of
sir,
those
not yet, no.
materials.
our expectation would be, just so that we're all clear on this, is that when the brick is removed, it's done to protect the integrity of what's underneath it.
Correct.
However that is accomplished.
Right.
If you have expertise on site or you bring in somebody else, but our expectation is that you and the applicant will remove that so it maintains the integrity of the structure.
Right.
I think that's where the commission is going with
Right.
that.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the lattice, let's take a picture of go back to the front facade, because there's a nice picture of, I think did we have a picture of the lattice somewhere in here, the existing? Maybe we don't. There we go. Yeah, right over the bottom left there we go. And so you're trimming out that lattice so it matches everything else, right?
Yes, ma'am, yeah.
And the new lattice will match the same diagonal pattern.
The current lattice is going to stay the same, what's already there, and then the top, which has the raw edge, will be trimmed out. And then it'll be paint black to match.
Can we see that, what you're talking about? We're talking about on the side.
On that side, yeah.
So you're saying that the square lattice is intended to stay?
Yes, it'll stay the same.
But it's being trimmed out.
It's going to be trimmed out on the top.
Yes,
That raw edge
yeah,
will be
yeah.
hidden
And painted.
and painted.
So it's not going to look like that. All right, well, are there any further questions from the commission members? All right,
Are there any specifications on the driveways, the drive or the walkways, do you know? On those two sidewalks that are kind of connect? I saw it on the landscape plan, but do you have to provide specifications for drives and sidewalks?
So that's all going to match that aggregate. The aggregate,
So these two added sidewalks will be the same width as the one on the front? Is that,
Yes, yeah. I think it's probably 3 foot or so. They'll match the same, yeah.
and is there a driveway? Do they have certain sizes, or is there any kind of parameters with the HPC and front drives? Do we have it dimensional or anything? I know this is a two-sided front, correct? Kind of, there are two fronts.
it is. So this driveway is existing as it is today. Not sure when exactly that was installed. It was obviously there prior to this owner having it. This is something that I honestly believe I do remember seeing, and we'll go back and check, HPC case where they specifically asked for that front yard parking. Could be wrong, but it has existed prior to this owner having this.
So when
All
he-
they're doing is just putting concrete over where there's pea gravel today.
So it'll be the existing dimensions?
It'll be
Correct.
the same
So
footprint.
it just mimics what's there?
Yes,
exactly.
sir, yeah.
any other questions, folks? All right. Have a seat. We may bring you back as we dig through this a little bit more.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will open the floor up to public comment. So,
We do, Mr. Sonny Deason has signed up to speak for this.
well, let's do it this way. We've received no submitted comment, so I will just put it out there to the floor. Do we have anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Yes, sir. Come up, and we will need your name and your address for the record, please.
Good evening. I'm Sonny Deason. My address is 402 17th Avenue. First, I wanted to say that I appreciate the fact of what the owner has brought today. It's much improved from what it was in February. And I do appreciate that. I have a couple of comments. The first is the brick under the side door. I've walked by that house for 32 years, almost every day, and I can almost guarantee that I saw workmen installing that brick under there within the last 6 months. I can't 100%, but we saw them putting the brick on the front, under the door, and the side. That's all I've got to say about that. But I don't think brick, the 30 years prior to that. But the other thing is, as you can see by that picture, it's a mess. And frankly, our neighborhood is a little bit tired of looking at the mess that's in those yards. And in my opinion, that violates city code. And it needs to be cleaned up, and I would ask that, if there's any way that could be part of it, that it cleans the stuff up, get the trash out. There's construction debris. If you look at pictures all the way around the house, there's construction debris, there's empty buckets turned up sideways, and trash, and it just looks bad. And this is part of the oldest neighborhood in the city of Tuscaloosa, and that does not present a very good image in the public light. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? And if you could please provide your name and address.
I'm Tricia Stone, 20 Pinehurst Drive. I agree with Sonny, appreciate the work that the city, Jonathan and Emily, and the owners have done to come back with this in the detail. My only concern is when you look at all that aggregate, that I think that's a change of material for the driveway to go from the loose pea gravel to this aggregate. And then it looks like on that landscape plan, is it possible to see that landscape? It looks like you're going to have that aggregate going up from Queen City on the front walk, and then I guess that's the aggregate coming off the side to the semicircle. Emily, I agree, if it was already approved as a front drive in the past, then that should be respected, but that's going to be a lot of hardscape and a change of materials on that driveway, and I just wonder, bushes will make it softer, landscaping will make it softer, but that's a lot of concrete.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? All right, let me close the floor to public comment then, and let's open the discussion up to commission members. There's a lot going on here. I did find Dr. Malone's comments about the south facade. We were talking about some steps and things. It doesn't say a lot, but what he did say was, and this is what I was thinking back to, the side steps and back steps were obviously not original, so they do not conflict with the design guidelines, but they are crudely mortared and pointed. And that's about all he said about that. So we have a complicated set of things going on here. Let's go back, if we can, to the first page of the request, the application here. And let's go to the second page. Thank you. So what are your thoughts, Commission?
I just have a question about, I mean, not really for anyone, but I question the rationale for the different approach to the brick thresholds from the front to the side.
I'm not convinced that the lattice is appropriate. I don't know whether the lattice on the front is original or not, and I do understand about adding a trim piece, but on a structure of this level of importance, I'm not sure I have sufficient basis to conclude that it is appropriate for the structure.
In what way? Do you mean, like, we bring it back to the design guidelines? I mean, they're going to recess it. It's not going to, right now it's sort of slapped on there, but they're recessing it and putting some trim on it, which is similar to what's been going on with the other older lattice.
I guess I'm just used to seeing it in that diamond formation, and, you know, obviously it's pine, it's thin, it's, you know, I don't think it's something that would have been original.
my guess is there was nothing there originally,
There was nothing there.
except stray cats.
Well, this was part of the issue, I think, that we heard last time, was that there was a problem with critters getting in there. And so the lattice, it's, allows air to circulate too, which is good, but it keeps the animals out. And the landscaping is going to be covering a lot of that anyway. I see the landscape as really.
I think it's easily, it's an appropriate material. The configuration, I don't think is specifically, it's not specifically outlined in the guidelines.
Correct,
And it's easily changed later.
correct.
Over the life of a structure like this, that would be something that would be maintained, more so than these stone steps and all of this brickwork and things
Right.
like that, that has a lot more permanence.
Right. I would agree with that.
I mean, I feel like they listened, and we said a lot, back in February. So I think for the most part, they listened and tried to come back with something that met what our concerns were. I agree with Jordan that the thresholds, I just think, I don't understand why they'd be, whether it's just the matching or what, but that's the only thing that really jumps out is
Yeah.
having the thresholds
Right.
matching.
So let me ask yeah. What we can do is, it seems to me that these two thresholds on the south facade are a bit of an issue. So we can pull those out, and we can vote on that separately, have a separate motion on those thresholds. How does that sound?
Do we just deny it or continue so that they can come back?
Well, we would vote on it, and then however, if we deny it, they do have to,
That would be a question for staff as to how we would want to structure that, so it could be addressed in the near future. And to Mr. Deason's point, allow work to commence.
I think the commission would have a couple of options there. One, if, on this specific element with the thresholds, if you're getting the sense that there may be a consensus to not approve that specific element tonight, one option would be to visit with the applicant's representative and see if they would be interested in a continuance on that item and try to come back on that next month with a different proposal that the commission might potentially find acceptable. Another alternative would just be to deny that part of the application and waive the 180-day or the 6-month bar. In other words, and that would allow them to come back sooner. They wouldn't have to wait the 6 months to come back with
either way,
something
they
else
could
on
come
that.
back next month.
I'm sorry?
Either way, they could come back next month.
Correct.
Whether we continue it or whether we deny it. Mr. Jadot, would you mind coming up for a sec? Just really quick. I'd like to make this suggestion to the commission, that we continue those two brick thresholds to next month, and we'll consider everything else.
Okay.
Is that something that your client would be interested in doing? Is that amenable to you?
Text him and ask him.
Okay, text him and ask him.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk a little bit here.
Okay.
And then when you're done, come on up.
Okay,
All right, and let us know. And then let's take those thresholds out of the conversation for now, all right? Because we're getting kind of hung up on that, and we can discuss the rest of it.
Are we approving the brick stairs on the other side that Dr. Malone was commenting on? Is that part of this? Yeah, those.
Those are down to be approved as is, as they were installed recently. I think my question is about the set that we're going to take the pavers, that they propose to take the pavers off. How are they going to, in what course, or how are they going to lay those? Are they going to, I know there are different patterns all over the house, but are they going to match the ones that were put in recently, or is it going to, they're gonna try to match the coursework on the two things that come out?
Which ones are you talking about?
The second, the first set of steps,
So
the other ones.
on the
Yeah,
south
I'm
side.
very unclear about how these steps will be laid, those.
All right. Yep,
Do you know, could you tell from the proposal?
I couldn't tell. I'm assuming it's going to look similar to this, but with a different color
Do
brick.
you remember?
But we can't, let's not assume what the applicant's doing. We'll ask
Yeah,
Mr.
okay,
Giroux,
yeah.
come back up. So it's a quick question. This should be fairly straightforward. So on the south facade, with the removal of the brick veneer, replacing with brick, matches better. What is the configuration, the pattern you're going to do with the brick?
That existing, the lighter brown color will be removed, and then we'll go back with the same match the color base as we can, but with the same thin set brick, as to not mess with the height of the
Right, so the color's
risers and
going to, the
everything.
color's going to match the main structure, right? You're saying the color of the brick?
Right, yes.
And then the way you're laying that brick, is it going to look like it does now,
Now, just darker.
or,
I probably had to matching what's on the other side, on those other two original steps that are on the
okay.
back side.
So that, let's add,
Just
let's make sure that
smaller
that language is,
Yes, that were
yes,
original.
thank you. So, Dr. Nelson, thank you so much for that. Let's make sure that language is in that, the motion when we make that, the laying of the brick, the
On the east side.
the coursework there will be,
There we go.
Yeah.
some really lumpy mortar going on there.
Yeah, I will note that a lot of the mortar is inconsistent across the whole structure, from additions and whatever else. So just make that note.
Well, and if we go back to what you have now, the pattern where it's laid is similar. The way that the bricks are laid is similar to what we have in the back. They're just different bricks. We're not talking about that picture. Who changed the slide? Come back. There we go. You're talking about those light-colored bricks, right, Dr. Nelson?
What about them?
You're talking about
Yes,
the
yes,
light
exposed
colored-
brick.
yes.
I wasn't really certain about how they would be laid course-wise, the pattern, the side, because like you said, there are
Here we go.
different types there. One recently added, one that seems a little bit earlier, you know? so
Right,
I didn't
yeah.
know.
They'll look like that, except that the top piece is gonna be thinner because of the existing concrete that's already there, as to not mess with the high requirements of risers.
I have a question for city staff or maybe council. It's weirdly not something I've thought about in all these years. To what extent do we have the ability to talk about the quality of the construction that's going to happen? I mean, my main concern, my overriding concern here is I see a certain lack of attention to detail in a lot of what is going on. And to what extent, as a board approving appropriateness on what is undoubtedly one of the probably 4 or 5 most important houses in the city of Tuscaloosa, and we say, okay, if you're going to do this, we expect it to be a restoration quality level of work.
And I think the best answer that I can give to that question is that I am not aware of any provision in the state's HPC statute or in the city's HPC ordinance that gives the commission itself any police power to regulate construction methods or techniques or quality.
Though we can specify, I suppose, that it would only be appropriate if it was done at a level that would be befitting of the structure.
The HPC's jurisdiction, as I understand it, coming from the statutes and the ordinance, is to determine if proposed exterior alterations conform to the design guidelines.
And so whereas here, we're very short on details as to exactly how we're going to do things, how are we to determine whether we think that the proposed work is appropriate?
Again, I would say that there's not any provision that I'm aware of in the HPC statute or the HPC ordinance that gives the commission itself any jurisdiction over construction methods or techniques. And so I'm not sure if concern over specific methods or techniques would give the commission authority to deny a certificate of appropriateness on that basis.
So I just want to go back to the slide we have on the screen with the brick. Dr. Nelson, has your question been answered satisfactorily? All right, thank you. Have you heard back from your client yet?
Yes, let's see.
Because we have these options, and, there's some discussion about the brick thresholds. It's just one small element of this larger proposal that you have here.
Yes, ma'am.
The options are to continue it to next month, so depending on what goes on with the rest of our discussion tonight, that's one small part that's being held back until next month.
Right.
Well, we figure things out, or if it goes to a vote, it could be denied, but we can waive the requirement of having to wait 6 months, so you can come back sooner. Either way, just looking at the way the discussion's going, there seems to be an issue with those thresholds,
Okay.
right? And so it's really up to you and your client on what you'd like to do with that. But
Yeah.
I would like to just pull those thresholds out and consider them separately, away from everything else.
And I think to some degree, you've got to see what happens on the first one before you can make a proposal
Right.
forward. You know what I mean? So to me,
Yes,
it's
sir.
like you've got to take a baby step, initial step, and get the brick off the first one before
Right.
you would commit or make a proposal.
Yeah.
It would make a lot of sense to take the brick off the side first, right? To see, because your most important job is going to be taking the brick off the front steps.
Right.
So that's just an observation.
Yeah.
Any word?
He's okay with a continuance for
Okay,
that.
all right. So now that I've kind of lost my thread on that, we will vote to continue, is that correct? Motion to continue the discussion on the thresholds till less,
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I would suggest taking it by two separate motions. The first being a motion to continue the application as to the brickwork on the two side doors
yes,
to next month's meeting.
right.
And
And then leave
have a
everything,
vote on
and
that
we'll
motion.
get back to the other discussion. All right, so we have a motion to continue the brickwork under the two doors on the south facade to next month. Is there a second? Yes, okay, then we have a vote. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
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 All right, so we're continuing those two thresholds on the south facade.
I'd
All
like
right.
to make a motion to consider, or at least to discuss a motion, to continue the work on the front stairs until, the brick removal and work on the front stairs until the next hearing, so that we can learn about how things went on the side stairs and the thresholds and other aspects of the project.
And then what would that do?
Well, I think when we go to take the orange brick off the side, we're going to learn a lot about how we do that in a
Oh.
way that's historically respectful.
We have, well, first of all, the brick veneer on the front, we have determined to not be appropriate. It has to come off, and we have limestone there. On the side, it's concrete. It's going to be different.
And
I'm not in favor of that.
I would, if I'm following the proceedings tonight correctly, right now, the applicant does not have does not have authorization to take the bricks off of the side doors. The plan would be to come back next month with the proposal for how they are going to approach the thresholds on the two side doors. Is that correct?
I think Mr. Cox was referring to the steps, that sort of lighter brick on the south facade, taking that off. I think that's what he was referring to.
I misunderstood. I apologize.
I guess my concern, and I'm not trying to cause a problem, and I understand the need to move the project forward. My concern is that we don't want to damage those limestone steps in the front. And I don't really have a lot of detail on how exactly we're doing that.
But my understanding is the Historic Preservation Commission is governed by the design guidelines, and I don't see anything in the design guidelines that talk about where we look at techniques and, who the contractors are, any of that sort of thing. Our understanding is that a proposal comes to us, we look at the proposal relative to the design guidelines, and we make our determination on that. I appreciate what you're saying, because I think this is an awesome building and one of the most important ones in Tuscaloosa. It's a gem on Queen City Avenue, but my concern with this kind of discussion going where it is that it's outside of what the Historic Preservation Commission can do. Not that we'd want to do, but that we can do, that we are legally allowed to do. Is that about right? Okay.
I think we talk about how things are going to be accomplished all the time, but
So, any questions for Mr. Giordano at this moment? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a seat.
Yep.
You might be back. All right, commission members, we've got the rest of the stuff here to look at. Do we have anything that pops out that we want to talk about? We are having that brick removed from the front facade, which is really important. Let's go to
Yes.
that front view again. So all of these issues that were so obviously an issue for us, for the surrounding neighborhood, are being addressed right here. Hearing silence. I'm assuming that we don't see any red flags. We shall move now to the south facade. Let's do that, folks. All right, so we've pulled out those two thresholds. We're not considering those. Some of this work was done later than the original. Underneath that lighter colored brick, that's coming off. We're going to be working on that lattice to make it look a little tidier. There's going to be landscaping. Let's hit the landscape plan. All right, landscaping here. We typically don't deal with such a detailed kind of plan with landscaping. It's good to see this, but I think it's important to see how this relates to things like that lattice work and everything else. But the important thing for us is that semicircular drive, right? But as we've been told, it's already there, it's been approved. They're using that exposed aggregate, an appropriate material. And we have the addition of a couple of small walkways there. Is there anything else? Let's go to the other stairs. And we have the fountain being moved. I'm glad the fountain is being restored and is going to stay on the property. I was happy to see that. So, having looked at all of this and having talked about all of this, and hearing silence now, I'm going to take that, yes?
I should say motion to approve as presented, noting that the brickwork on the south steps match the brickwork on the east step. The layout.
Okay. So, here we go. Fasten your seatbelts. We have a standing motion to approve HPC 1524, Mark Nix, WOMO LLC, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for the exterior alterations to the primary structure and to install landscaping on their property located at 325 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We note here that here we go. The two thresholds on the south facade have been considered earlier and are continued, and that we request that, it would stipulate that the brickwork on the south east side match the south steps. Is everybody madly writing here? Did I get it all? All righty. That's the standing motion to approve. Voting on my right.
Yes.
abstain.
Yes.
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 Mr. Giroux, please tell your client that the application has been approved with the noted stipulations. Should there be any questions, any changes, anything that comes up, Please see city staff before you proceed. Good luck with the project, as has come up in some of the discussion, take care in removing that brick veneer on those front steps, especially because they are significant historically speaking. And good luck with the project. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to HPC 1624. Kara Macareno petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for signage on the primary structure at 1306 Queen City Avenue. This is in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have the location of the property as well as an aerial view. This is a building that you've seen before, just a different side. So we're specifically looking at these three portions here. So the proposal is for a metal blade sign. You can see there is an existing sign there today on this facade as well as the opposite facade. They plan to essentially replace that with a slightly different material. It is still a metal material, which is listed as appropriate in the design guidelines. And then here we have both of those areas where the new sign's going to be located. All right, materials are metal, and here we have those applicable design guidelines. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the representative in person.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff? Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to come on up. And if you could state your name and address for the record, please, we'd appreciate it.
All right. My name is Clayton Brinyark. My address is 2226 Prince Avenue.
Thank you. Is there anything else you can tell us about your application?
I know that this is going on the Quarter Real Estate Building there at 1306 Queen City. We actually did some signage there back in the past, which is why y'all may have been familiar with that building before. I cannot say much else about that building. I'm new to this project. I'm new to the company that's doing this work. It was done, that signage on the front side of the building that was permitted previously. I think you can see it maybe on the right side of that image, that bottom image there. I was not a part of that project, but again, I cannot speak much more on what is going to be done there.
Are there any questions for Mr. Brinyark?
I can only assume you volunteered to come to this meeting tonight as for the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah, I was the lucky winner.
Thanks for being here.
Well, welcome.
Also, let me commend you for pronouncing my last name correctly. That's a very hard undertaking, I guess I should say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions? It appears we have none. Have a seat. If anything comes up, we'll invite you back. All right. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? I'm closing the floor to public comment. Let's open the floor up to discussion with commission members.
Matches identically the style of signs that have already been approved on this very same structure.
Yep.
I see no issue.
All right, so I'm hearing like sort of silence and a few mm-hms going on there. So I assume then we will move ahead with our standing motion to approve. HPC 1624, Cara Macareno petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for signage on the primary structure located at 1306 Queen City Avenue in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
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 Mr. Brinyard, please tell your client that the application has been approved this evening. Good luck with the project. There will be a final inspection. Should anything change from what we talked about tonight, please talk to city staff first, okay? Thank you very much.
All right, next case is HPC 1724. And Hornsby petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to an existing porch. This is on the primary structure at 1604 Alaka Place in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. So here we have an aerial view of the property as well as its location. And this is a view of the subject property from the street. Next, we have the existing eastern, southern, and western properties. So moving back to the proposal, this is for the enclosure of an existing screened-in porch. We have some drawings that show this more clearly. So again, this is the front facade. This is an image we pulled off of Google that shows the existing screened-in porch. Now, this was taken in 2020 on Google, so it is a little bit dated, but here are those drawings, which pretty much show the exact same thing as that image. On the top part of the screen, you have the existing conditions, and on the bottom, you have the proposed. So what is being proposed, new awning, casement-style windows, surrounded, it's kind of hard to tell, but surrounding the windows, it's going to be enclosed with siding, a hardy or a lap siding material. Nothing else is changing. There's no expansion of the footprint. So essentially just enclosing or removing the screened-in porch and replacing it with new windows.
Any questions for city staff? Thank you very much. Let me invite the applicant to please step forward, please. And we will need your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. Ann Hornsby, 1604 Alaka Place. This is a porch that we added to the house about a dozen years or so ago, so it's not an original porch to the house. But I was adamant at the time that it be screened because I really like screened porches. We've had some problems with water, and we also would, I think, now that we've both retired, enjoy using the space a little differently. So I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too, and have windows that are operable so that we can still enjoy it, enjoy the birds and flowers and stuff, as well as being able to close it up when inclement weather is a problem.
Are there any questions for Ms. Hornsby? It all seems very straightforward. We have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much. Let me open the floor to public comment. We received nothing. Is there anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to the application? Hearing none, I'll close the floor to public comment. And let's open the floor to discussion by the commission.
The guidelines are very clear about enclosure of porches on the side and rear of a house. It retains all of the original configuration. Everything seems to be in accordance with the guidelines to the letter. I see no issue.
Yeah, I mean, sort of holding this in contrast to our previous case. I mean, this is a side porch. We have a full plan. We have rafter tails. We have windows that match. We have, profiles that have been thought through. This is a perfectly executed presentation for a sympathetic change to an existing structure.
So that tells me we have a standing motion to approve HPC 1724 and Hornsby petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to an existing porch on the primary structure located at 1604 Alaka Place in the Druid City Historic District, Council District 4. We shall vote, beginning on my right, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Ms. Hornsby, your application has been approved. Good luck. You know there will be a final inspection. Should anything change from what was approved this evening, please talk to city staff, and good luck with your project. You're welcome.
All right, now we have our last case of the night, HPC 1824, Tuscaloosa Building and Land LLC petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure at 2130 Glendale Gardens in the Glendale Gardens Historic District, Council District 2. So here we have the aerial view of the property as well as its location. So this should look familiar to you. This was an application in January. Essentially, they're proposing alterations to an already approved application. So here we have the subject property as well as that adjacent eastern and southern property. Moving into their proposal. So they would like to remove existing siding on portions around the house. They're going to replace it with cedar lap siding. Currently, there's some board and batten siding that they would like to replace with lap siding. So on the north face, they're going to replace a door and place a window there that matches the design and the material of the existing windows. The west face, that's where they're taking down the board and batten siding and replacing it with lap siding. And then on the south facade, they would like to continue with the lap siding as well. So we'll go around different sides of the house. So here we have the primary structure. This view from the street. This is what was previously approved. So they got approved to remove the door, to replace the board and batten siding, to remove the stairs. Now they would like to place a window there. So that is the only thing changing on this facade. The window design, the materials, is going to match what is already there. Moving to the west face, so they did get approval to remove the door, to continue with that board and batten siding, and now they would like to continue to remove that door, but replace it with lap siding. So those are the only two portions that are changing from the previous approval. We have cedar lap siding, aluminum clad wood windows, and here is that material spec sheet. We did not receive any public comment for this application, and we do have the representative in person.
And if we can go back to that last drawing right there. So while this is a little odd, all we're representing here is that that door is being removed and that we're keeping the
Right, so
the siding.
the door was approved to be removed. So the siding that you see, the board and batten siding, it's gonna be replaced over here and over here
Right,
to have lap siding.
right, okay.
So they're keeping, this door currently exists, and that is this one here.
Existing windows are staying?
Existing windows are staying, yeah.
Just want to make sure, 'cause it's not as detailed as we usually
No, sure.
get drawings, but it's actually, the concept is very simple, so
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure that we had that kind of underscored. All right, thank you so much. Let me invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Anthony Crow, 8264 Harbor Road.
Is there anything else you can tell us about the application, Mr. Crowe?
No, ma'am, I mean, he pretty much covered it. We're just gonna do with the siding all the way around just to match the house. And that, like he said before, the door on the side is gonna already be come out, and she just, a little bit more looking into it, she wanted the window there too.
Sure,
So.
sure. Are there any questions for Mr. Crowe? Well, thank you so much. All right, let's open the floor to the commission. Fairly straightforward.
Public comment?
Oh, public comment. There's no public comment. Anyone here to speak in support of or opposition to? Hearing none, I'm closing the floor to public comment. Opening the floor to discussion by commission members. All quiet, which suggests to me that we have a standing order to approve. HPC 1824, Tuscaloosa Building and Land LLC, petitions for a certificate of appropriateness for exterior alterations to the primary structure located at 2130 Glendale Gardens in the Glendale Gardens Historic District, Council District 2. We shall vote, beginning on my left, please. Dr. Nelson?
Yes.
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 Mr. Crowe, your application has been approved. Please let your client know. Should anything change, please see city staff. There will be a final inspection to ensure compliance with what we approved tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, Commission, the only other business, staff approved 8 expedited reviews since the previous HPC meeting, and that is all we have for you.
Thanks very much. Hereby adjourn this hearing.